what enlightenment is, and many of them are right, right? And many of them are right. And if in fact enlightenment is something, maybe it's the understanding that nobody has the exclusive on right.
Right.
You know? Nobody has the exclusive on that. And to be able to put a cabinet around you of people who don't necessarily agree with you and be willing to look at the best possible outcome, even if I don't agree with it, it still results in the best possible outcome. That takes a big man or woman. That takes a big person.
It's not an easy thing to do.
It's not an easy thing to do, because we've all got egos, as we've talked about before. We've all got egos, and what I find fascinating about this guy is he seems to be willing to put his ego aside. He seems to be willing to embrace other people's ideas. Now, I know there are people out there who are very anti-Obama. It's not like he's got everybody's vote.
No.
But I loved what he said in his acceptance speech. There are those of you who voted for me, and I thank you. And for those of you who fought side by side to make sure that this happened, that we got to this presidency, to this place, and I thank you. And he said, and for those of you who did not vote to me, I will be your president too. Mm-hmm. Right?
Yeah.
Wow.
Powerful words.
Powerful. It was an incredible speech. And to me, it's that same message of equality, that dream. Mm-hmm. It's, I have a dream.
Yeah.
So for me, it's this wonderful fulfillment of that. And the coming together that I find fascinating. In my industry, that I've been speaking for 24 years.
Yeah.
And I've been kind of a lone cowboy in a lot of ways, in that I did a lot of stuff myself. As you know, I teach most of my programs alone.
Yeah.
And I did everything myself for years and years and years. And that back in, let me think, back in 1980, in the end of 1988, so more than 20 years ago, and when I met with Tony Robbins, I think I told you this in one of the previous podcasts, I had a conversation with Tony and told him I was pissed off that he was more successful than I was. Tony was great about it, don't get me wrong, I mean, he was fabulous about it, and I really respect Tony. And Tony said to me he was on your team, and I didn't know what that meant. I said, what do you mean? He said, well, do you think I handed out the tickets? Do you think I set the chair? Do you think I set the... and of course the answer was no. And he said, I have a team. And it's that willingness to have a team who are working towards a common outcome, even if you don't agree. And it's that willingness to be bigger than your opinion, but as big as the vision.
Right.
Right? So you've met Valley, who is my director of e-commerce, Chief Solutions Officer.
Chief Solutions Officer.
Which means he basically fixes people's messes, mostly mine, technical ones. And there are, we were talking about this, that there are some things about the way our business runs and what it is we do. Valley and I don't agree on. Mm-hmm. But we totally agree on the vision.
Right.
And because we agree on the vision, we find a way to make it work. And that's what I find fascinating about what Obama's doing. He's saying to people, you have got this strength, come on board. You may not agree with me, but I recognize your strength. Mm-hmm. I don't have to agree with you, but I can honor and respect. And I think that that's profound, and I think it's a profound lesson for all of us.
Yeah, I totally agree. Because I've been in situations where leaders, in particular I'm thinking of a couple of businesses that I'm aware of, where the leaders, the presidents, surround themselves with yes people who are dumber than they are. So they end up looking great in the meetings, and the company goes downhill really fast.
Well, as you heard me say before, when you get to the place, and I know I got there back in the late 90s, where you realize you're the smartest person you know, that means you're pretty dumb. Right? I was the smartest person I knew, and it was a really great sign that I was behaving in a dumb way. Mm-hmm. That I needed to surround my people who knew more than I did in any given area. I have my specialty, but I don't know all the technical do-how, and I can study it and have but it's better to put some, it's one of the things of, as psychology has developed, particularly business psychology, we used to have this whole thing around, you got to work on your weaknesses, blah, blah, blah.
I remember that.
And really what we need to do is work on our strengths, build upon our strengths, and in a business, for example, find the people who have strengths where our weaknesses are. Otherwise, we end up surrounding ourselves with people just like us. And the biggest mistake a business person will ever make is hiring someone like them.
Yeah.
You don't want to hire people like you just magnify your problems. But you all pat each other on the back and say it's not your fault.
That's right. That's right.
Right? Whereas hiring somebody who has that strength where your weakness is, I don't know anything about the technology behind a podcast, for instance, right?
Right.
That's your strength.
Yeah.
Scott Patton is the leading expert on podcasts. You want to do podcasts, this is the guy to talk to. He knows how to put it together. They fly him around the world so they can teach people how to do podcasts and become successful and become great using podcasts as a leverage point, right? Scott Patton is the leading guy.
I'm going to take that little quote out and put it on my website.
You can do that. I have no problem with that. But that's what Scott Patton is.
Right.
Now, I can learn to do it, and I will as a matter of my overall knowledge.
It's like osmosis.
Exactly. But at the same time, it's not my number one focus.
Right.
It doesn't need to be my number one focus. What needs for me to do is for me to find Scott Patton, the leading expert in podcasts, and say, hey, this isn't my strength, but it is yours. Right. Let's do it together. That's what I'm seeing in the Obama cabinet.
Yeah.
Is that, each of those people have been picked for their strengths. Whether they agree with him or not is not relevant. Their strength is, how can we use this strength to not only rebuild the United States, but to rebuild, and interesting from a marketing position, rebrand the United States in the world.
Right.
Because the brand is a pretty crappy brand of late.
Yeah, it's been tarnished.
Right, it's been tarnished from the great American empire to something that, where people are taking off their flags off their backpacks. That's not a good sign. Mm-hmm. And when somebody can step up and say, let's rebrand this and we're willing to put ourselves on the line and find the people who have the strength, that's it for me.
Yeah. As you were talking, you reminded me of a manager I worked for once who said, if everyone in the store, and there was like 120 employees, was like me, we'd have no problems.
No.
And it was all I could do to keep my mouth shut, because all I was thinking was, all of my problems, you caused.
Yeah.
I don't have any problems with the messes you keep making that I have to clean up that you don't know about, right?
But that's what I said. If you hire people like you only magnify your problems.
That's right.
But from an ego position, if you're only running out of ego, then everybody else is wrong. It's the blame game.
Yeah. And what you're talking about with Obama, too, I think is interesting on a personal level, because if he's willing to sit down with people that he knows may never agree with him on certain points, right?
Mm-hmm.
And work through them and come out with what they all agree is maybe the best thing to do, then what does that mean for us on a personal level,
mm-hmm.
right? When we run into people that, totally disagree with what it is that we're doing. And I just think that opens up a whole area of communication because good leaders lead by example.
Exactly.
As you pointed out, right? So I think on the macro level it's really exciting, and I think what he's doing on a micro level, that is one person with one other person, is also really, really exciting.
We are on the brink of change, and actually in our next podcast I want to talk about that, not just from a place of Obama, but I really see that we're on a brink of change, and I believe the next 3 years are about something very different, which we've not spoke about particularly in these podcasts before, that I've been speaking about more privately with some of my students and some of my people I hold in high esteem. We've been discussing a lot of these things, and I believe that we are on the brink of change, and I think the manifestation of an African American multicultural president is a manifestation of saying where we're really going. And The question will be, what will we do with that?
Cool. So we're going to be answering that question on our next podcast.
We are indeed.
So stay tuned, everybody.